Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Literally Me podcast. It's your boy Tristan here, calling in from beautiful sunny Florida, and I'm here with one of my best buds, Dino, from across the
Coming
pond in
from
Germany. How you doing, buddy?
coming from rainy Germany, it's raining all day today, but I'm doing great.
How's the weather out there? Not to get into weather talk, but is it cold out there right now in Germany?
It's pretty cold. It was warm for like a day, but apart from that, it's starting to feel like November, December, because October
Okay.
was very warm and didn't feel like October, so I'm glad it's back to how it should be.
Well, I'm curious to know what do you guys consider like what do you consider warm and what do you consider cold? Because I feel like we might have a complete opposite. Because me, like 60 degrees Fahrenheit, let me think what that would be in Celsius. That's probably like 30 something or like 20 something maybe. Like to me, I'm like, that's freezing. Like that is like freezing cold.
That's freezing for you?
Yeah. But
30
then
Celsius is like hot for me. Like that's
let me hold on. I'm gonna pull up the calculator, the thing, so I
okay.
can see the difference. Because I know 32 Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius, but I don't know. Okay, what did you say is super hot for you?
30 Celsius.
Thir 30 Celsius? Okay, yeah, that's like a pretty cool day here. That's what it is like now here.
But the humidity is also different over there, I think. So,
It's super wet here. Like you step
oh no,
outside, it feels like really muggy. Like it's
that's
like
horrible.
like you're yeah, you're like your clothes make you like 10 pounds heavier by like the
Yeah,
end of the day.
we talked about it off the pod. You guys have AC, so it's different. We don't have AC here, so
I was mind blown learning
mhm,
about that on a listening to a completely separate pod, like a music podcast. And
mhm.
these guys were talking about touring in Germany. And they're like, "Bro, we fucking hate going to Germany because it is so hot everywhere." Like if they go in the summer and there is no AC anywhere. And I was like,
Nope.
"There's no way that's true." I was like, "There's no way." And I hit you up and you're like, "No, yeah, I don't have AC." I was like,
I don't know a
"That's
single
crazy."
friend who has AC. Sure, in like other European countries, like more south, they do. Some of them, not all of them. But
Yeah.
here, no one has AC, man.
Are you guys just running with like the ceiling fan just going? That's it? Do you guys have ceiling fans?
We don't have ceiling. I don't know a single person who has a ceiling fan.
Really?
Nope.
You just keep the wind what the fuck do you do when it's hot out? Do
Just
you
live
guys
with
have
it.
like do you have fans? Do you guys have, like, little fans that you can put in your house or something?
I have one, but I have a lot of friends who don't. And when I visit them, like when I'm at their house in the summer, they don't have one.
So you guys don't understand the pleasures of sleeping with a ceiling fan on full blast all night?
Nope. Unless I like tape
Dino
like one to the ceiling, I can experience that maybe. But we don't have ceiling fans. And honestly,
Dino,
I've
when
never
you
seen a ceiling fan in person.
really?
Nope.
I'm
Never.
I'm I'm looking at one right now as we as we speak,
No,
but
ceiling.
Dino, when you come to Florida, you're probably gonna catch frostbite because we keep the house super cold, we have the
Mhm.
fan going as well. You'll wake up just completely blue, your lips are all just, like, chapped with ice.
And then you go outside and you just like
And
melt.
you sweat the
Yeah.
second you step outside, yeah.
How do you guys not
Um,
get sick? Like, just the difference from, like, being inside and
I
outside,
guess
I feel like that just hits you once you go outside.
that's actually a good point because I was gonna say, like, with the outside, like, there are some places, like, when I lived in Georgia,
Mhm.
the weather would flip back a little bit, like, one day would be something like probably, like let me do the math here, maybe like a 30, 35 degrees Celsius,
Mhm.
and then immediately the next day, maybe it would be like 25 or 20, and it would just, like,
Mhm.
flip back and forth. I don't know if that's an accurate, Celsius transaction I made
Mhm.
there, but it would swap at least between Fahrenheit, between, like, 20 degrees, like, between, like, multiple days, and just back and forth, and that's when you get really sick.
That's crazy. That's what
Yeah.
it's like in Germany, like, the weather just flips. You have really cold days, and then the next day it's, like, warm and sunny, and you're like, "How am I supposed to prepare for that?" Because you can't. You just have to,
Yeah.
like, every day you have to take it. You go outside, and even like that in the morning, it can be really cold and, like, rainy, and then in the evening, it's, like, warm and sunny, and like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck?"
Yeah. It's global warming, I guess. We got climate change
Yep.
to deal with. That's probably why it's November 11th, and I already know I'm going to step outside and start sweating my ass off all day.
Mhm.
Um, but enough about the weather. That's not why you guys are here. You guys are not here to, hear me struggle with the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius, and you're not here to hear Dino, talk about a life without AC.
Yep.
But we're here to talk about something way more boring today. We got the next movie in Ryan Gosling's filmography.
Mhm.
For those of you who have been listening, you guys know the drill. We've been going through his filmography, starting with Barbie and working backwards. And we have finally made it, to, at least for me, the most dreaded entry in his filmography. And that is 2017's Song to Song, directed by old Terrence Malick.
Yep.
And Dino and I both I saw some of it. Dino watched the whole thing, but both for the first time.
Yep.
And I say we just don't waste any time. Let's get it out of the way with wh- what I'm not even going to get into plot because there's no plot to talk about.
There's no plot. I watched the whole thing. I have no clue. I watched it weeks ago, and I know as little before I watched the movie, right after it, and now a couple weeks later, I still don't know anything. So there's really
Well,
nothing to talk about.
I guess if we wanted to talk about a plot, so for those who are unaware, Terrence Malick is he was a good director. He was a great director, actually. I think his first three films, we've talked about it for sure. I think his first three films are all incredible. Badlands, Days of Heaven, and The Thin Red Line. But then something happened after The Thin Red Line where this man said, "Hold up, I am going to make the most inaccessible, most pretentious, most boring movies that I can possibly imagine making for the rest of my life. And people on Letterboxd are all going to say that I'm a genius because they want their followers to think that they're super smart." But Song to Song essentially is, I guess there's like a love triangle going on in Austin, Texas between a bunch of musicians. And at least from what I gathered, I only could sit through the first half. I guess Natalie Portman enters, and maybe there's a second love triangle that forms. Am I kind of guessing that correctly? Does anyone know?
Probably. I'm not sure. I know she's in it. I know something happens between those four people, and but what exactly happens, I'm not sure.
Okay. Um, but it does have a good cast. I will say the cast is pretty
Yes.
stacked. Malik finds a way of doing that. I think he lives like just off the strength of those first three movies and Tree of Life, which maybe will come up later, maybe. Um, but he has Michael Fassbender. He has Ryan Gosling in this, Natalie Portman, Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara. Um, I was looking through some of the cast afterwards too. I didn't see them, but I guess the whole Red Hot Chili Peppers are in it too. I guess Val Kilmer is in it. I did not see Val Kilmer. Um, and then is this true? Is Christian Bale also in it at one
He is.
point? He
Yeah.
is. Okay,
He's
interesting.
also in his other film, Knight of Cups. I think that's where,
Yes,
and I
my
think
arch
they showed
nemesis.
it. Yeah.
I hate that movie. Yeah, another one, a very good cast too, where he brought in a bunch of like Saturday Night Live style like comedians and shit. And I'm like, it was just like a joining of two completely different worlds that I never expected. Like ultra pretentious Terrence Malick, but then he's bringing in like Nick Kroll and all these like fart joke kind of comics. I'm like,
Mhm.
that is kind of cool. And like Nick Offerman or something. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, really good cast. Couldn't tell you what happens. Um, and typically with these episodes, again, for those who have listened, and I apologize to those who maybe have just searched up. They're like, "Oh, I just saw this awesome movie called Song to Song. Let me go on Spotify and search up a good podcast to hear two intelligent young men talk about this movie that I loved." We're really not going to do that. This might be the extent of how much we talk about it.
Yep.
But I am curious to know, just to get into it, are there any movies that you think kind of reminded you of this? or that this reminded you of, or maybe if we could in some way interject the literally me, even though these characters there's nothing to them to make them literally anybody. Are there any movies that this kind of reminded you of, or that you thought kind of were in the same sort of ballpark as this boring piece of shit?
Well, for the literal me aspect, like you said, the characters, I don't know what their personality is. I really don't. The only way it could be literally me is if it's literally me sleeping. That's the only way. As for similar movies, because we always do this with like four movies that are similar, we think the characters would like. I have one film that I think is very boring. It's not going to be four because this one alone is going to get me put on some list for cinephiles who want to kill me. I have
Okay.
received, I've talked about it once, like, I don't like this movie. A lot of people, they get very angry at me. I
Ooh.
hope I don't receive death threats for this. If you're listening out there and you like this film, I don't hate it. It's just not for me. And that is Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, which is a
Oh,
hot take.
bro. Oh.
Do you agree with me or do you just hate me
No,
now?
I disagree. I think Dunkirk is my favorite Nolan movie.
Okay, I don't like it. I thought it was so
Oh, actually, I
boring.
think you and I have talked about this at some point,
Could
maybe for
be.
the Barbenheimer episode. But continue, continue.
But wait, now that I think about it, Dunkirk actually wasn't the most. There's one that I found to be more boring, and I'm gonna get even more hate now that I think about it. And that's The Prestige, also a Nolan film.
Okay, I will say The Prestige, I think, is more boring than Dunkirk.
Mhm.
But I do like both movies a lot, honestly. I really do.
The Prestige took me 3 tries to finish because I fell asleep
Really?
twice, and I watched it in the middle of the day.
Really?
Yeah, people are gonna hate me. People listen, I don't hate Nolan. I don't hate those films. I think there's something I understand why people like it, but I just don't like it. And with Dunkirk, I understand why he made it the way he made it. Like, I understand why the characters aren't as interesting because it's not about those characters. It's about the event, and he didn't want like a character to take the spotlight, and he wanted to feel like a documentary, which I understand, but just make a documentary. Because for me, I need characters I can relate to. I need interesting characters, and if they're all just like boring, then it's not for me. But that's just my opinion. Please, please, guys, don't kill me. Um,
I'm coming to your
there's
house right now. I'm hopping on
yeah,
the plane. Imma kick your
dude.
ass.
I'm already hearing the crowd outside with their pitchforks. They're not happy.
See, for me with Dunkirk, and I under okay, so this is I because I've had this conversation even with other friends, where a lot of them are like they take hard stances and they're like, "Yo, Dunkirk freaking sucks." And I had to be like, "Well," and that's the thing, I didn't think it was extraordinary on my first viewing. I still like, I didn't think it was, like, boring, and I didn't hate it, but I
Mhm.
remember being just a little neutral on it on my first ever viewing, and I think a lot of it is because of the expectations, especially with someone like Nolan. It's hard to not have the biggest expectations going in. It's the same thing that happened to me when I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the first time. I had different expectations because Tarantino always is such a layered story and it's so like so many different storylines moving together. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was really just like a hangout movie. Like there was no real plot line. It was just a very
Mhm.
character driven thing. So for me, I really, really, really disliked it on my first viewing because I'm like, what is this? But
Mhm.
then when I rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it clicked to me because all my expectations were gone. I knew what to expect, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I could see it for what it was." And the same thing happened with me where each time that I have watched Dunkirk, I have liked it more and more and more to the point now I think it is my number 1 Christopher Nolan movie.
Interesting. You make a good point because I feel like if I only seen it once, I could like it more. And from a technical aspect, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredibly shot and filmed, and it's an achievement for sure. no doubt about that. I just didn't find the story as gripping because I didn't have anyone I could cling on to. And that's something that I personally need.
Yeah,
But if you're really interested in that, and I might be more because back then I wasn't as interested in history as I am now, I
yeah.
might appreciate it more. That being said, The Prestige, I don't think I would like more on rewatch.
I think because I think the thing that separates those two is that I think Nolan with Dunkirk was setting out to do something different because the thing with that movie is that there are no characters to cling on. It's not, you don't know anything about, but what it is, and I've discovered with each rewatch, it is simply him exercising like, yo, I am going to make 1 hour and 45 minutes of nonstop tension, nonstop suspense for an hour and 45 minutes. And that
Mm,
is it. And I think he achieves that. I think he does it very well because the whole time is very tense. Like it never releases at any point. And there aren't those character moments though because it's just bouncing back and forth to build that suspense. So I do get that. But the Prestige, on the other hand, is all character, is all story, is all plot, and sometimes gets a little too plotty. I think.
mm.
Um, but I also enjoy that movie too, but I can totally see I agree to your point though, where you're like, if I rewatch Dunkirk a few times, I think you actually would see it differently and maybe enjoy it. Which actually we can talk about it in a moment. Don't let me forget. I'm gonna cross my fingers so I don't forget. It
Mhm,
reminds me of a movie that I mentioned briefly before we recorded that just came out maybe 24 hours ago.
mhm.
Um, but the Prestige may be tough because it's just if you don't like it the first time, you kind of are getting what you got every time out of it for the most part.
Yeah, good point. Actually, now that we talked about it, I'm excited to rewatch Dunkirk, and I might change my opinion. Because just thinking back, like the technical aspect, it's so incredible, and maybe now what you said, it's gonna resonate more with me, like just the tension, the nonstop tension, and yeah, I'll
I think
rewatch it
I
and
think
we'll talk
you'll
about it again.
yeah, I think you will like I'm not saying like, "Oh dude, you're going to watch it the second time and it's going to be your favorite," but I think you'll at least appreciate it, I
Yeah,
think in a different way. Yeah.
for sure.
Um and then what was the other movie? Oh yeah, Prestige. Yeah,
The
okay.
Prestige, yeah.
We did both of those. Yeah, those I think are good points. I have a couple as well that
Mhm,
I think are kind of real chores, I suppose.
mhm.
Um, and I remember literally writing a letterboxed review about one, and then when I was going through, I'm like, what movie was it? Or like my review is like, I have literally started this movie 4 times. I have fallen asleep every time.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, I don't know why I brought that up because I couldn't even remember which one it was.
Oh, you didn't
But
remember? I thought you were gonna
no,
say okay.
no, I did not remember. But
Mhm,
some of the other ones that I have seen, I have never been able to sit through the classic film Doctor Zhivago,
mm,
that classic, 60s or whatever movie. I
yep.
have never been able to stay awake in that movie. I have tried multiple times. I've never succeeded. I have failed every time.
I haven't seen
Um,
it yet.
it's like one of those where it was on TV, like it was on like TCM or something like a classic movie channel here.
Mhm.
And like I was with my parents, and this happened on two separate occasions. Both times I have fallen asleep while sitting on the couch, and then I wake up at the end. They're like, "Wow, that movie is so good," and I'm just like, what happened?" Um, but another more modern one,
Mhm.
which I don't know if you have seen, it was the first movie by Panos Cosmatos, and that was the movie Beyond the Black Rainbow. Did you see that movie, or are you aware of it?
I'm aware of it. I've started it once, but I never finished it, I think.
Yeah, for those who might be unaware, that was the director of the film Mandy with Nick Cage.
Mhm.
He also directed The Viewing from that Cabinet of Curiosities thing that Del Toro did for Netflix. He directed that one episode. But Beyond the Black Rainbow was one of those movies that was really hyped up to me, and it seemed so much up my alley, just a real kind of like head trip, like cult, like weirdo sort of movie. Maybe something you put on late at night. Maybe something, you get a little under the influence to watch first. But I remember it was one of those movies where, and that's the worst thing is when a movie becomes a chore, where it's like I have to finish this. I keep checking the watch, and it was one of those movies. Um, and that was one that was a real bummer to me because it was so hyped up, and in my head hyped up, not even just from other people, but from myself. And ultimately, it's one of those that is just so just like painstakingly slow in the way that it unravels things that I mean, this movie's like a surefire cult classic. Like that will be a movie that in 10, 20, 30. Well, I guess it's already been 10 years, but in another 10 years and in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, like I think a lot of people will really like it, but I do think it's unbelievably boring though.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never finished it. I think I started it and then something came up. I had to do something and then I just kind of forgot.
Or you're like, oh, hey, this movie's boring as shit. So let me turn this off and do something else.
But I still finished them. Like even if a movie's very boring, I still finish it. That's like the completionist in me. It's
Oh,
hard.
this one you never finished, you're saying, at
Yeah, I
all.
never finished it. Like I think something came up and then I forgot about it, or I'm not sure what happened, but that sucks. But I wanna watch it because I know there's like I've seen some shots from like the later parts of the film, and it's beautiful. Like it looks so treaty
Yeah.
cool and yeah.
It's one of the I mean, it looks like a Kubrick movie where it's just like everything is just like perfectly framed and it's the cinematography is unmatched. Like that can't be denied. Um, but I don't know. I it's one of those that's maybe a little bit too like enigmatic, a little too ambiguous and too like artsy fartsy for its own good,
Mhm.
maybe, or at least for me.
Mhm.
Um, it reminded me a lot of that movie with Scarlett Johansson that Jonathan Glazer did. I think it was called Under the Skin.
Yep.
Did you see that one as well?
Haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's to me, it's similar kind of movie, and Under the Skin, in a weird way, is almost I would say is almost on that level of also sort of being like, all right, this is a little like I don't know, a little boring here. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yep.
Um, but Jonathan Glazer is a really good director, and actually, he just directed a new movie about World War II that I'm very excited to see. It's called the Zone of Interest.
Never heard of it. Is it like
Oh,
coming
dude,
soon or
yeah, it just played at the New York Film Fest, premiered there. So I think it's coming out like it's an A24 thing. So I think at the end of the year or beginning of
oh,
next year. It
that's
looks
cool.
super cool. I like that director a lot, but that movie I think is kind of boring also. Um, but again, we're not here to just rag on movies. We're not here to shit on movies and just a shout out to boring movies because we both like talking about movies we very much like.
Yep.
Um, so with that being said, should we transition? Is there anything that you've seen recently, maybe that you want to shout out, or should we get into the movie that at least for us just dropped yesterday?
Hell yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, it's starring a friend of ours from the great film Song to Song, Michael Fassbender.
Great.
But David Fincher's The Killer just dropped, at least on day of recording, like yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, and by the time it came out, probably just a few days ago. But I know it's been very anticipated. I know for you, you've been highly anticipating this movie as well.
Yep.
Um, what'd you think? What were your thoughts?
I liked it a lot. I watched it last night, and it's very different from Fincher's other films, which I like. It sort of has a feeling of like early 2000s Fincher. So go with Dragon Tattoo and Social Network in terms of like vibe and editing and things like that. But it's so different and it's so methodical and smooth and the way it flows, and it's not as heavy as his other films in terms of like it's just like I said, it's like a couple of days in a life of a killer. There's
Hmm.
not much more to it. It's not as action packed as people might expect it to be. There's a lot less killing than people thought, and I heard that some people were disappointed in it. But I liked it, and that just made the action scenes that much more pop, especially the one in Florida. Like that action scene, that was just incredible. It was
Love that
brutal.
scene.
It was so good. Like you felt every hit. And I also liked about it that he's not this perfect hitman who kills people like with ease. He struggles. He's still human. He is inhumane, but he is human. He makes mistakes. He is not this amazing John Wick who kills like hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And that's just, I liked it. It was a very cool approach, and especially like with the references it took, like with the samurai and things like that. I just thought it was brilliant. What about you?
Yeah, so initially when I had put it on, I I legitimately almost turned it off when the opening credits came on.
Hmm.
The opening, because also it was so abrupt. Like literally, I clicked play immediately. The credits start playing. So I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! There's no even like opening like to settle me. It was like okay. And then honestly, the way that the opening whole credits were, I thought was so fucking cheesy. I thought it looked bad. I thought it looked really corny. And in my head, I'm like, oh, Netflix didn't make a David Fincher movie. David Fincher made a Netflix movie. I'm like, this is going to be very bad. But then it starts, and I was immediately hooked.
Yep.
And I wish the opening credit sequence, which it really is not important in the grand scheme of things, but it really was a weird way to start. Like I don't like it at all. The way that
Mhm.
they edited it, the way that it was put together, every choice made for the opening credit sequence I thought was awful. I thought it was terrible. But the movie starts, and like you said, it's probably one of the most methodical movies I've seen, because it's like methodical squared, right? It's methodical in the sense that you're following this guy who does everything very much don't anticipate or don't improvise, anticipate, trust no one. That's how you succeed. It's all very da 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 da, and it's just a repetition of it. And then Fincher, I mean, Fincher's such a damn good director that he literally he he made with the camera the same experience that that guy goes through mentally. So like for us, which I get is the director's job, but it's a very difficult thing to be like, okay, I literally just gave you guys this guy's entire mindset through the use of the way that I'm editing this and shooting it and framing it. Like in that way, it may be one of the most effectively directed things Fincher has maybe ever done, because it is perfect. The way he directed it is perfect for the story. Um, and now I thought the story was really good too. Like I really liked it a lot. I cannot lie. I really enjoyed it. And I think that it was one of those where it's a lot of me figuring out how much I liked it as well. Like now that I'm talking about it out loud with someone, because obviously, it just came out. Neither of us have had that much time to digest it or maybe even talk about it with anyone. At least for me, like I said, I fell asleep while watching it. Or maybe I said that off the pod, but I fell asleep while watching like the last 20 minutes. So I woke up and turned on the last 20. So I'm still like formulating, everything. But man, I really liked it. I like the way that he chose to tell the story. The first 25 or like half hour is so good. That whole setup of that first of the job, like of the job that he's on, is so good, and he takes his time, and it's yeah, man. I liked it a lot. I cannot lie, and you know me, I'm a hater, but I liked it a lot.
It was so great. Like even if you mentioned, because someone I posted a shot of it yesterday, and
Yeah,
someone commented like, "Does it get any better because the first 20 minutes are so boring?" But I thought like it's just the way he preps, and you just it's a setup to understand who you're watching, what's in his head, how does he operate, and it it feels so much more earned what he does, even though I'm not going to spoil it, but something happens.
yeah.
It just feels that much more earned because if he just went there and just shoots the guy and goes out, it's just like, yeah, it's cool, but we've seen that a million times.
And I love that you bring that up, because there's a great line in the opening 20 minutes where
Mhm.
Fassbender in voiceover says, "If you are unable to handle boredom, this job is not for you." He says that straight up.
Yep.
Fincher is straight up looking at you like, "Yo, get with it or like get out of here. Like it's going to
Mhm.
be slow. If you cannot handle the quote unquote boredom, this will not be for you." So I love that you brought that up, because it's such an integral part of the story and who it is. And I didn't find it boring at all. And I find a lot of shit boring. Like
Same.
song to song is freaking boring. not the freaking killer, dude. But I liked it. Oh, I'm honestly gonna up it a half a star also on Letterboxd as we speak. Because the more I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, damn, bro, that movie was freaking good.
And I think that's the same. This is so crazy again with the coincidence because we talked about boring films. This is like the thing he says in the beginning of the film. Another thing you mentioned, it's just the way I just lost my thought. Let me just catch it again. I forgot what I wanted
Yes,
to say. As I was talking, I just forgot about it.
that's me every time I open my mouth. I
Yep.
immediately forget what I was gonna say or do.
Dude, I
Um,
had okay, just
Something
say
about the
something.
boredom. Okay.
Yeah, it was something
But this
about direct dude.
all
I
good.
just
I'm gonna
com
talk some random stuff, and you just think about it. If we can't, then just bring it up some, later on.
okay.
But the thing with this movie too is that it doesn't take itself very seriously, and I'd be curious to actually read the book also to see like I bet the book is probably really good, and I'm curious to know if the chapters are laid out in the same way they do the chapters in the movie. How it's like chapter one Paris, chapter two Dominican Republic, chapter three whatever. I'd be curious to know if it's laid out in the same way, like just like 6 or 7 chapters plus like the epilogue. Um, but it also doesn't take itself very seriously. It was very funny. There was a lot of very funny moments that lightened it up, and also Fassbender was unbelievably swaggy. His
It
his
was.
his his swag was on another level. I respect the hell out of it.
His style, man. Just like the cheap head, the cheap bucket head.
Yes, the
It
bucket
was
hat
so
Fassbender. Dude, his face was looking all sorts of crazy. Like in that dude, there comes a point where I'm also like, "Oh, this dude is an unbelievable actor." His eyes literally started to like go in different directions. Like he literally started to get a lazy eye when he would like stare. I'm like, that dude literally has perfected the dead eye stare.
mhm.
Like that is unbelievable to
He
me
looked
that someone can do
great.
that on a physical level.
Yep.
It's insane.
And it was very funny the way he said, like, he disguises himself as a German tourist because nobody wants to deal with them. That was just super funny to me because that's just so true. That was great.
But yeah, man, I really liked this movie. I'm curious. Well, I didn't see Mank. Did you see that movie Mank? Fincher made before this one,
No, because I never saw what's it called?
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane. I never saw Citizen Kane, and I want to watch Citizen Kane before I watch Mank.
Yeah,
I
you
think
probably
that's the
should.
way to go. You've seen
You
both,
should get
right?
on it. No, I never saw Mank.
Oh,
Um, I've seen Citizen Kane many
mhm.
times, but I've never seen. I think I have a poster in here somewhere, Citizen Kane, but I've never seen Mank. I don't know why. I there was nothing like, or I'm like, I'm not gonna see this. It was just
Mhm.
like one of those, like, oh, I just forgot to get around to it. But I think it's on Netflix, though,
Yeah, it is.
if I'm not
You could
mistaken.
do
It
like
is
a
okay.
double feature, watch it today, and then you have both Fincher Netflix films.
Yeah, I might have to knock that out this weekend. Honestly, I'd be super curious, but I'm curious to know, like, at least just off initial viewing, like, last 24 hours, still fresh in your mind, what two Fincher movies would you put The Killer between? Like, where in your sort of ranking or whatever, where would you put The Killer um, in the ranking of Fincher? And if you got to pull up that filmography,
Yep.
please do.
Okay. Well, Seven is still my number one Fincher film,
Yeah.
and I
hmm
don't think that's gonna change.
You
Honestly,
mean you mean to tell me it's not Alien 3?
it's definitely Alien 3. That's my number one for sure. I haven't even seen that one, to be honest.
I haven't either.
And I always forget that Fincher directed it, which is it's so weird when you look at his filmography. It's like
Was
83
that
scenes,
that
right?
was that was his first movie, right?
Yep,
I think that was his debut. Yeah.
yep. Which is wild, but
Yeah.
well, I think honestly, The Killer might be in my top three. It might
Interesting.
it might even be number two. I'm not sure. I guess it's seven is still my number one. I think then The Social Network and The Killer is like right there.
There.
And I think after that, either Zodiac or Fight Club. but I have to rewatch Fight Club because I haven't seen it in ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gonger I also haven't seen in a while, and I forgot a lot about that film. And the
Hmm.
girl with the dragon tattoo, I don't remember anything from that film. Just the
I
vibe
never
of it.
saw I never saw that one.
Mhm. I saw it, and
That
it's been a long time, and for some reason, I
yeah.
don't remember any scenes. It's just like the vibe I have that I remember. Yeah. What about you? Do you have a ranking set, or do you need more time?
I think I mean, I know for me, obviously, like number one for me is also Seven. Like I really love that movie, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to think like what I would put this between. I do like this more than like Panic Room. Um, I always forget that he did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but I certainly like this better than that.
Mhm.
Um, I also like this movie more than The Game. Have you seen The Game?
I haven't.
The Game is one I highly recommend it because the first viewing of The Game is incredible. Like
Mhm.
everyone's first, but it's one of those movies where there are plenty of films where even when you know the twist at the end of it, you can
Mhm.
still go back and be like, "Whoa, holy shit, it was all in plain sight," and this and that. But The Game is one of those where once you know the ending, it kind of ruins other
Mhm.
viewings. For me personally, I feel that way. To me, I'm
Okay.
just like, oh, like it's not like they're hiding things to where it's
Mhm.
like, oh my God, how did I miss that? Or it's like, oh, but it's just like, oh, I know where this is leading up to. So the mystery to me is just not there anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but on first viewing, if you only watch the game one time, it could be like a top three, like top four Fincher if you watch it only one
Really?
time. Yeah.
Damn. I'll have
But
to check it.
but I've
It's
it's
set
really
in
good.
San
It came out in
Francisco,
the
right?
90s. Say that again?
It's set in San Francisco, right?
I think so. I think it's
Okay.
yeah, actually it is for sure San Francisco. Yeah, and it has
Mhm.
Sean Penn, it has Michael Douglas. Um it has a really good cast and I've just seen it a couple times, so with each reviewing it's just gone down for me. But if I would have only seen it just the one time, it probably would be up there. But I would probably put this maybe right in front of Zodiac,
Mhm.
and maybe right behind. Damn, honestly, I'm looking at the filmography, dude. Maybe this is number two behind Seven. Honestly, I can't lie.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say I have not seen The Social Network since it came out, so I don't remember it like at all. And I am like it's due for me to go on like a proper Fincher like just rewatch of everything.
Mhm.
Um so maybe it could be The Social Network up there as well. Gone Girl haven't seen in years. Um so those could be up there as well, but I think I would put it around Zodiac. Seven's my number one, and honestly, I very much dislike Fight Club.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I would probably maybe number two. Honestly, now that I'm really thinking
Same
about
here.
it,
I
yeah,
think same for
I liked
me.
it a lot.
Yep.
It was really good. It was really good, and I liked the presentation of it a lot.
Yeah. Did you hear that he had talks about a social network too? He said in an interview.
No way.
Yeah,
About what?
well, there's a lot of stuff that happened afterwards, so like the Congress, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, this whole thing. I think they had talks about it.
Interesting.
He could make a second one, which would be interesting.
It'd be interesting. It doesn't seem like a film that would need a sequel. I mean, would you even be able to get Jesse Eisenberg again for it? It's been like
I don't
14 years,
That would be
however
hard
long it's
because
been.
I'm not sure if he would want, but honestly, if Fincher calls, I don't think he would say no.
Al- Also, I'm curious, like, is it like Mark Zuckerberg now, like now in 2023?
Well,
Or
when the
is
stuff
it,
with like the Congress happened with those leaks and with Russia and all that
oh, I
election, things
see.
like that, and like Trump, I think that was I remember the whole
Yeah,
thing.
it Fincher, I know you're listening to this, Dave. I know you're listening to the pod. Stay away from it, dude. Just don't do it. There's no need. Stay away. Make something
Yep.
else. Make something new. Make something new.
Mhm.
Make another killer type movie. Make
Yep.
something new. We don't need to revisit said what they
I'd
needed
be
to say.
I'd be interested to see a second one, honestly, just to see how Fincher would approach that because he's never done a sequel. Not the sequel to his
Yeah.
films. I mean, he's done Alien
Yeah, I
3,
was
but
gonna say just Alien 3.
yep.
Yeah. I remember I remember hearing, I could be making this up, but wasn't there like something going around that they were gonna do some kind of like Fight Club sequel or some shit? Or am I making this up?
There is a comic book that is set after the first film. So they
Oh,
made an
okay.
adaptation, but I think it was only like a book or a comic book. I'm not sure if they
Okay,
ever
okay,
talked about a movie, but they might have,
okay.
honestly. I
The
know that
comic
like
thing makes sense. I remember there was like some kind of continuation of some kind.
there's a comic book with like his son, and they have I haven't read it, so I don't know what it's about. But
Okay,
someone probably thought about making a movie, but Fincher probably said no.
I'm sure. I'm
Yep.
sure they're probably coming out of the woodwork. Well, anyway, it's been a minute since we have talked though, prior to this, and I know we've both seen a lot of shit. Anything that you've seen recently that you particularly want to discuss or put me onto or get off your chest?
Let me look at my diary. So I'm gonna go like pre and post Spooktober, and then we can maybe do like a quick Spooktober recap, just quickly talk
Sure.
about films we watched. But there were a couple films I watched before that I wanted to mention. And let me see. Okay, so the last time we talked was okay. So I watched this film called Museum Hours, which I just quickly want to shout out.
Okay.
Someone, his name is Loey on Instagram. He saw that I love Columbus and he put me on this film. He's like, "Hey, you love Columbus? Watch this film. It's called Museum Hours. It's directed by Jem Cohen. Came out in
Okay.
2012. It's incredible. I watched it. It was hard to find, and it was shot in Vienna, and it's pretty much almost completely set in a museum. And it's about this woman who comes to Vienna to visit a sick friend in a hospital, and not knowing what to do in between, she goes to the museum and meets this guy who works there. And they connect, form this really great friendship. It's very similar vibes to Columbus. And if you love those types of films, and if you love going to the museum, it's an amazing film. Everyone listening, go find it. It's hard to find, but honestly, it's worth it. Slow film, a lot of talking, but so great.
I'm looking at it now on Letterboxd. I can't possibly picture or think of another more Dino movie than this, probably. I've never seen it, but it
It's
looks pretty neat.
so right up my alley, and it's amazing. Okay, so then I watched The Samurai, which is fitting because I bought the Criterion. This it was my first Criterion.
Your
I
first
bought the
run? Yeah.
movie. I paid the price. It was a birthday present to myself in
Yes,
September.
sir.
So, yeah. Then I watched Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Have you seen that one?
I haven't. I feel like that's
So
another like good Dino movie. I feel
yep.
like that's one that would really be like your type of steez, your vibe.
You know me so well. I was so excited to watch it, but it never came out in
Was it? It
theaters.
was. It was really good.
It's so wholesome, so sweet. I loved it.
Okay,
Yep,
I'm about to check it out. I'm about to check it out.
for sure. Then I watched Past Lives, which I need to mention. Did you get a chance to watch it?
No, but we are on a Dino-a-thon right now because all these
We are
movies, I'm like, yep, that's a Dino movie. Yep. I remember
absolutely.
seeing the ads for it and being like, Dino's gonna love the shit out of this movie. I know for a fact.
It was a 5 out of 5. It is my favorite film of this year. It immediately jumps into my top whatever, I don't know, but
Whoa,
it's so
okay.
good. It's so good. It's honestly one of the best films I've seen. It so right at my alley, and I think you would love it as well.
Okay. I'll check it
If you
out.
got
I know that it was playing in theaters around here
Mhm.
or maybe at festivals, I don't remember, but it's out and about. Did you rent it? How did you see it?
I caught it in theaters, thank God, because it was
Okay.
playing here in Switzerland, and I went by myself. That was the first time I went by myself in
Oh, we talked about this, I think maybe.
yeah,
Or I saw you
I
post something maybe. Yeah.
yeah, because I went to see Spider-Verse by myself when it came out because I had moved to a different city to college. Didn't know anyone, went by myself. And I always wanted to re-experience that. With this one, it was supposed to leave the theater and I caught it right before it left. and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I watched it in theaters by myself. It was an amazing, very intimate, very like meditative experience.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And for anyone listening who has ever thought about like, oh, I want to go see a movie in theaters, but like maybe I don't have any friends to go with, or go by yourself. Going to the
Mhm.
theaters alone is a great experience. Go by yourself. It's okay. You can be alone and enjoy it. You don't need a homie around you. Your homies are on the screen for 2 hours.
Exactly. You're not going to be
Have a good
judged, and if
time.
someone judges you, fuck them, man.
Fuck them. Yeah, move on.
Yeah,
So
hell yeah.
what?
Okay, so three more. I rewatched Surfs Up, which I don't know why I rewatched because I watched the second one, which I had never seen, which was horrible. Not gonna talk about that one. It was a WrestleMania crossover, which is the weirdest.
Really?
I thought it might be funny, but it's just yeah, whatever. Surfs Up. I mean, I it was my favorite film when I was a kid,
Uh-huh.
and I rewatched it, and it's just as great. It filled me with so much joy. It was an incredible experience. That movie just rocks. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, it's like the cooler, like older brother to Happy Feet.
It is. It is, and it's such
Yeah.
like a great like those skate documentaries, but like with surfing and like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
vibe. So great. And then I watched The Whale finally
Oh, for the first time?
for the first time, and that was incredible. My favorite Aronofsky film. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars.
Really?
I thought it was just insane.
Wow. I
Mhm.
liked it a lot too. I enjoyed it. But that's a huge claim, number 1 Aronofsky. That's awesome.
I just loved it so much. I thought it was amazing performance, amazing story. It really like just captured my heart, and I thought it was amazing. I know it received a lot of backlash, but yeah,
I don't get why. I still don't understand why it received any
same,
backlash, to be honest with you.
same. Yeah, those were mine. You want to get into yours? I'm just gonna like turn a light on quickly because I just
Yeah,
saw
I
it.
was gonna
Just
say, where are you? I don't even see on the screen anymore.
you witnessed
Yeah,
Germany
go.
winter. Like it's not even 5 p.m. It's just completely dark outside, and you can't even see me. So I'm just gonna turn it on and
Yes. So for me, I guess let me go through as well. Were those all of your pre-October viewings?
yeah, pre and post. I did both.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna do. I think maybe we talked. So I'm gonna get into. Well, you know what? I'll do one that I might have seen after we. Wow, we might not have talked in maybe a month then. But
Yeah.
I
And last time
saw.
we did it, we didn't talk about the films we previously saw. So
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. So, one movie I do wanna talk about that I saw in theaters that was a re-release that A24 re-released, and that was the Talking Heads Stop Making Sense Live concert film,
mhm.
by are you aware of this, movie?
Nope.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm
Nope.
sure you had to have seen because in the last, like, month, like, that was all they posted about was, like, "Stop making sense, stop making sense." Their whole Instagram was flooded, people were going crazy over it. But it's a live concert film that Jonathan Demme of, Silence of the Lambs fame, he directed this in the maybe, like, '84 or something, um,
I've seen it.
'86,
Yeah, I've seen
'84,
like
yeah.
pictures of it.
It was really dope. It was my first time actually watching it ever, and
Mhm.
I'm glad I got to see it on a big screen, and it was one of those where it was just an awesome viewing experience. I went with my boy Pat, who is also my assistant director on projects, and, like, people in the theater were all, like, up, clapping, they were all singing along to the concert, like, it was a very, like, cool interactive thing. It almost reminded me of going to see like the Rocky Horror Picture Show in theaters, where it's
Mhm.
like super, not quite as like raucous or as like party like as that, because that is like straight up going to a party. But this was like literally people were up out of their seats dancing, people were singing, people were clapping after every song. People were like, "Yeah, yeah!" Like it felt like being at a concert, and it was really cool, and I love the way that it was shot. It was so creative and so cool, and the Talking Heads were just such a great band. And yeah, man, I think you would really enjoy it. And I'm not a big concert film kind of guy, and I'm really not that well versed even though I love music, obviously, as you know, I have a big, background in music too, but
Mhm.
I never have watched that many. But to me, I was just like, this is like just so creative and just so good. And it wasn't trying to mix in too much crazy shit. It was just this is the concert, and then they're just going to be creative as hell at their concert instead of like let's mix in these interviews or let's mix in footage of things happening outside that parallel. It's not trying to do any of that. It's just you're gonna have a good time for an hour watching this awesome set, hearing awesome music, and seeing these really quirky and talented individuals for like an hour 15 or however long it is.
I'm not that familiar with the band. I might have heard a song for sure,
You
but
for sh- you for sure have heard like Psycho Killer, I'm sure is like a very popular
it's them.
song.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Then
they
I've
they
definitely.
open he opens with that in Stop Making Sense acoustic. He walks out with a boombox and he clicks it and it's like a little like a drum thing and then he
Mhm.
plays it acoustically, just him and this like boombox on the ground. Um but it's really good. They also do that song Once in a Lifetime. I'm sure you've heard that one too.
Mhm.
Just classic 80s stuff. It's one of those things like your parents might, be like, "Oh yeah, of course, the Talking Heads." But really good, and I highly recommend it. Like even going into it, I only knew like 3 songs,
Mhm.
so it wasn't like, and I still loved it. Now I'm like, I've listened to the whole album like multiple times,
Mhm.
the live album, but I only went into it knowing like 3, maybe 4 songs. That was it. So I think regardless whether you know any of the music or not, it's still an awesome, awesome time.
Hell yeah. I'll definitely check
Uh,
it out. I haven't seen a concert movie in a while. I'm kind of down for that. Just to vibe
yeah,
some do some cool music, have some cool visuals, and watch it.
it's a really 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 good movie. I cannot emphasize that one enough.
Awesome.
Um, and then I guess we said we're gonna keep Spooktober aside, right,
Mhm.
for a little recap.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll wait for these because they are, I guess, Spooktober esque. Um, are they? I'll just wait. I'll just wait.
Okay.
Um, let's see what else. What else did I see? Just a lot of horror because I realized looking back, even in September, I just started early.
You
I was like,
started
fuck it,
early.
man. I was like, let me get into it,
One
and
month is enough.
exactly. And even in the beginning of November, I'm like, why not? Let's just do the whole thing. Um, but let's see here. Let's see if there's anything non horror that I did uh get into. I rewatched the movie Repo Man. Have you ever seen that movie
Nope. Heard about it,
with
but
Yeah, with Emilio Estevez,
mhm.
Harry Dean Stanton. Um, I rewatched it on a plane. Actually, uh, I was flying, and I was like, I haven't seen Repo Man in so long, and it's one of just the most like badass fun. Like I think literally in my review, I'm just like reminder to self do not be afraid to push the boundaries of like filmmaking or like everything that you think like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that in a movie. They're just like, okay, hold my beer. I'm gonna go do this in a movie. Like
Mhm.
there is no holding back, and it is just it's so fun. It's about Emilio Estevez is like he gets hooked into like getting a Repo Man job. Harry Dean Stanton is like a seasoned like veteran Repo Man, and Emilio Estevez somehow gets into the job and um
What's a repo man?
there's Oh, okay. So a repo man is someone who like goes to repossess cars that haven't been like paid off. So, so if
Okay.
like say like I have like my car sitting in the driveway or something, and I
Mhm.
have not paid any bills on it for the last few months, some dude will literally come in, break into that shit, and take it, and they take it back to the dealership or they take it back to the bank or whoever has it. They take
Damn.
it, or to their repo yard or whatever, and then you have to go in and pay them to get your car
That
back.
bad. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's a whole
It's weird.
I
They
guess
don't
it's a big
break
American
into
thing.
it. They don't like tow it.
Yeah, I mean they have like they'll tow if they can't, they will straight up like get in there with like they have a thing through like the window to open it up, just fucking and they will go get in. Like there's a show, I forget if it was called like Repo Men or whatever, or like Operation Repo or some shit.
Mhm.
But some trashy American reality television, a lot of shows were all about these people. And there it was more like reality, but it was a lot more like, oh wow, like they're gonna break windows in and people are just coming out with guns. It's not quite like that, but depending on the neighborhood, certainly like
Yep.
people will not take kindly to that.
Damn.
But it's essentially he gets in a job one of these, and one of the cars they have to get is like has this glowing green trunk. And if you've seen Pulp Fiction, as I'm sure everyone listening has,
Hmm.
this is a big inspiration, and we can date back even further in a sec. But the whole luggage, the suitcase, I'm sorry, the briefcase that opens up, and it's just MacGuffin, and it has nothing to do with the story, but it opens it up, and the light that is from Repo Man. The trunk has nothing to do with anything, but yet is this thing that they are constantly chasing, and you open it up, and it glows. It's the same. Tarantino clearly is playing homage to that, but even more so if you've seen the movie Kiss Me Deadly, a film noir from the 50s. That is where Repo Man and Pulp Fiction are both taking that from. There is a suitcase that opens up, and it's like a nuclear holocaust when they open up the suitcase.
I think you
Um,
talked about it once because remember when I had to do like a analysis of Pulp Fiction for school and you and I talked about it,
yep.
then you think you
Okay.
told me where that came from.
I probably
Yeah,
had this exact same word for word what I just said,
I
that
think
it
so
kind
because
of
it's like,
came from Repo Man by way of Kiss Me Deadly.
yep.
Yeah. But great movie. So much fun. Um, Highly recommend seeing it. Even if you see it on a plane, it's still a ton of fun.
Hmm.
And then one more, I guess I'll get into. Go ahead.
I gotta check it out. I love Emilio
Yeah,
Estevez and it sounds cool.
it's
Is it like
it's like
action?
comedy, action. It's super funny. It's just like it's a classic 80s movie in that it's just like no holds barred, no boundaries. Like we are just gonna go do this thing. We're gonna go out and make this, and no, you'll get what I mean when you watch it, where it's like, okay, like if you've ever had a mind to make movies or thought, it's like, okay, this is showing me that like anything is possible. Anything
Mhm.
that you can think of to put on a screen is possible. You don't have to keep yourself in any kind of reality or anything. Like push the boundaries. This movie did it, and it shows that you can do it. It's awesome. I love that movie.
I love that. I love when people just like get creative and just they don't think about like, oh, are people gonna like this or is this even good? Like they just go for it and just push everything. Then they don't put themselves in a box. And I love those
Exactly.
films. So
A-
I'm
And they're
definitely
just doing the story justice too. They're not, that's like the most truest thing you could do for a film like that. Um, and then one other that I'll get into really quickly before we get into some Spooktober recap, because that's where the real juice is going to be. I started Noirvember. As we all know, it is now November. Got to start Noirvember. And I really just want to shout out this movie, which I've talked about on the Mandalay Instagram page recently. We talked about it in the comments of that post, but really, the movie Odds Against Tomorrow is one of the all-time great film noirs. I really think that this movie is so good, and I will champion this movie until I am 6 feet under the ground. I This movie should be seen by more people, and it's so good. And I just want to take the platform here on the pod for anyone listening. This movie is on YouTube for free. Just search Odds Against Tomorrow 1959. It is up there. You don't have to pay a penny, a cent, a pound, a euro, a lire, whatever kind of currency is out there, a yen. You don't have to pay anything. It is free, except maybe North Korea. You're probably not going to be able to watch that shit. But anywhere else in the world, you can watch this movie for free on YouTube. And it's a great film noir that really it talks about like race relations. It's a little ham-fisted. Like on rewatch, I'm like, a lot of this is a little just too on the nose. But again, the timing, like the time of it. But it handles like race issues. It is also just a cool, like badass noir, like cool in the sense of like these characters are like cool and the music, and it's just like one of those movies that you're like, I could post a still of this on my story and just be like, yeah, I'm like a cool dude who watches like these cool movies. um but it's just, I don't know, man. I don't want to. It's just a great movie, edited, one of the best edited movies I've seen. Best directed, a greatly directed movie by Robert Wise, who he's known for directing The Sound of Music, and also the original West Side Story.
Mhm.
So it's funny to see him do this like 10 years prior to those. And he also directed which one? I think the first ever Star Trek movie. Like this dude did a lot of like mainstream sort of shit
Damn.
in like the 60s and 70s. But he might best be known for a movie called The Haunting, which was the first ever adaptation of The Haunting on Hill House.
Mhm.
That came out in '62. Very good slow burn horror movie. He also did The Day the Earth Stood Still. This dude is a great director. Robert Wise, shout out to him. And I highly recommend it. Dino, I know we talked about it on Instagram, but I think you'll really like this movie. And it's an all time great film noir. And I can't say enough good things about it. Truly.
I actually set out to watch it this weekend. Like I fully planned on it. I watched a
Oh
reel.
yes,
I have time on Sunday. I'm gonna put it on. It's on YouTube. You as well, if you're listening to this, you might be listening to it on YouTube, like right up there. You can just search for it and watch it
yeah.
and come back to this. But I'll definitely watch it soon. This weekend.
Let me know.
I
We'll have to.
planned on it. Your reel
Yes,
definitely
sir.
just convinced me. And you have a poster of it, you also mentioned.
I do. I have a poster of it, not in this room, but in the other room where I film those reels. I do have a odds against tomorrow, like a horizontal poster, which is super cool.
Hell yeah.
I love that
I'll
movie,
text
man.
you
I really
right,
do.
right when I watch
Let me
it.
know. Put it on right before if you got time. What time are the Niners playing tomorrow, or is it a bye week?
And no, we're playing well on Sunday. We're playing on at 7 my time. So afterwards I'll have some time. 7
Okay.
p.m. my time. I don't know. I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
like
So it's the one
3.
o'clock game, or the first games,
Oh yeah, 1 o'clock. Yeah, that's right.
1 o'clock
6 hours
game. Okay. Oh,
against
so
the
you got
Jaguars.
plenty of time afterwards. Yeah, throw that bitch on at like 10. It's only like an hour and a half too. Like it moves quickly. Like it's a solid 90 minutes. It's fun.
That's why I know I have some time afterwards. After the game, I'm probably gonna crave something, and then I'll
Of
watch it.
course.
Yep.
Who are the Niners? Not to detract. I know some of the movie folks might not care to hear, but who are the Niners playing tomorrow?
Jaguars.
Ooh,
Mhm.
that'll honestly probably be a closer game than I think people might expect.
Dude, Trevor Lawrence is playing pretty well, so we'll see.
He's starting to pick it up, and then I'm pretty sure we're facing off the week after that, Bucks Niners, if I'm not mistaken. I think they play the following week.
Let me. You're right. You are right.
Do they? Because I
Yep.
remember it's like the week before Thanksgiving, I think, or 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, they're playing.
You're definitely right. Oh, that'll be interesting.
I don't know what led us on that tangent, but
Mhm.
should we get into Spooktober talk?
Let's get into Spooktober.
All right, let's get into Spooktober talk. We hope there's some football fans out there. If it is, drop a comment on what your squad is so we can shit talk how bad you guys are. Uh,
Let's do the Niners. Then
unless they're the Niners, then yeah, that's the only team that is an NFC team that I'm still like, okay, I'll be nice because Dino rocks with them, and I don't hate them, and I love Brock Purdy, so
hell
I'm
yeah,
kind of nice to them. Yeah,
hell yeah. And I don't hate the Buccaneers. So there's an equal respect
exactly,
here.
exactly. And the one
Oh,
thing that I know I will always have over you is that Tom chose us over you. I'm sorry, I'll end the convo there, but he chose us over his hometown.
yeah.
Sorry, that's the last time I promise.
Even though I think Kyle Shanahan didn't want him, which is
That's the reason. That is 100% the reason he
he
was going to
talked
go
about
there. I guarantee it. Yeah.
he didn't want him there because he would overshadow Kyle Shanahan, and people would say it's Tom Brady, not a coaching. But
Shanahan, which by the way, look at Belichick and the Pats now. It was clearly Tom over the
yeah,
coach. Clearly.
there's nothing wrong with it. If you're a good coach, why wouldn't you get someone like Tom Brady? We could have had a ring, but
100%. There is no reason why the Bucks got a ring in 2020. There is no reason why.
I'm glad you did. But it could have been our
Me
sixth.
too.
But hey,
Yeah. Hey, just let us have our second, okay? Let us have our second.
okay, fine. Okay, so I finally watched The Sixth Sense.
Yes, that is
We talked
correct.
about it already off the pod,
Yep.
but I know it
Yep.
was a thing on the podcast where you said I'm like the only person on the planet who doesn't know the twist. I didn't know it.
Yes.
I didn't expect it. When he looked at his, I can't spoil it for people who haven't seen
Honestly, guys, I firmly stand behind that Dino is the only person on earth who did not know it. So I feel confident in spoiling it, but if you are like Dino and for some reason you've never heard of the twist of Sixth Sense, fast forward like 30 seconds or 45 seconds. Right now, I'll give you a second. Fast forward, go, go, go. Okay, spoil it.
Okay. When he looked at his hand and the ring wasn't there, I was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, shit." And my
Yeah.
girlfriend looked over me, she's like, "What?" She looked back, and then it was, like, another scene, and she was like, "Oh, shit." And we
Yeah.
just both looked at each other with, like, our mouths wide open. We were just, like, screaming. We just went feral, dude. It was such a great experience. We were like, "What the fuck?" It was so much fun not knowing the
the
twist and
whole
watching it. I'm glad I lived under a rock, apparently. So good.
I'm I'm glad you did too. I love that I can like vicariously re-experience that because I never got to experience that. I knew the twist before I ever saw the movie. So that's kind of taken from me. So I love that I can experience that through you. That is freaking awesome.
I'll give some enthusiasm back to you.
Thank you.
I watched The City of the Dead, which you
I
recommended.
can you believe this? I never watched it all October. I never got around to it again. I never did.
Did you at least watch a Scooby-Doo film?
Neither. But let me say something. Let me say something. Both of them, in my opinion, are very valid November watches too. I think. I think they're both very good November watches as well.
You're
So I have
right.
this whole month. I have this whole month. City of the Dead, they kind of got the pilgrim thing going on a little bit. So
Thanksgiving, sure.
I think I got some time here. I got some time.
You do. And honestly, you can watch any, like both and any Scooby-Doo film at any day of the year because they're just so good.
hmm There's just something about that one though, The Witch's Ghost. Some in particular, it's an October November movie. I
Yep.
refuse to watch that in like April. To me, it would just be wrong.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay. I watched Shadow of the Vampire,
talk about
which
it. Talk to me about it.
it's dude, it's incredible. I told you about it.
Yep, very briefly.
It's one of the most creative films I've ever seen. And it's one of those films, and you know what I'm talking about because you mentioned it as well. One of those films that just changes your whole perspective on movies and movie making. Like, I just
Yeah,
watched it and I was like, oh, I can do shit that before that I didn't even know was possible.
yeah.
That's that film. It's a retelling of the filming of the original Nosferatu film. But it's like, okay, but what if they cast an actual vampire as the lead, but no one knew from the crew except the director? And he made a deal
Yeah,
with him to give him something in return, not gonna spoil it, for him to star in this film. And some people are like catching on to it during the filming.
yeah.
It's Willem Dafoe as the vampire, Nosferatu, which is incredible. And John Malkovich is in it playing
Is he playing the
Francisco
director, Murnau?
Romero, exactly. And dude, it's one of the best films I have seen. And
I was super. Go ahead.
it's so creative and so well filmed as well. It's not just like the concept of it, the idea, the execution stuff. It's just how it was filmed. Like very true to that age and just how they recreated scenes from the film, seeing how they filmed it. So good. So good.
I got it. Where did you watch the movie?
It's on YouTube for free.
Really?
At least in Germany. Not sure over there, but in Germany it's available.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna take a look because it's not on streaming anywhere. If it is, that's amazing. Do they treat it at all with any kind of comedy? Because it seems like there might be. Oh, it is up
Depends
here.
on depends on your sense of humor.
Okay.
It's not a comedy film, so it's you can see it as that, but it's just like very it is like weird, but not in like that way.
Yeah.
And it's just so good.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting. I'm gonna peep that. I added it to the watch list on YouTube.
Please do. Please do. It's so good. It's so good. The ending as well. It's such a great ending. And just the way. like I didn't know what it was about. I thought it was just like a recreation, like how did they film Nosferatu as a movie? Like how did they make it? Behind the scenes
Yeah.
drama. What I didn't know that the plot was like an actual vampire. So when he came on, I was like, he's acting very weird. Like, did the real life actor, really act that way? But then you find out, and I was like, whoa, like is this really
Yeah.
happening? And the whole time I was like, am I tripping? Before they revealed it, I was like, am I tripping? Like, what's happening? Is it just like method acting? I was like, dude, he might be a real vampire. And then it was revealed, and I was just like, damn, dude, so good.
Wow.
You gotta watch it.
I'm
Okay,
excited for it.
I watched Science. I'm gonna like get quickly into those. Science,
Uh-huh.
another one of
M.
M.
Night.
Night Shyamalan's. Didn't know the twist as well. Great film. I watched No One Will Save You, which is kind of inspired by Science. It's a new Disney
Yes. I saw it as well.
Hulu. Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it when it maybe like a week or two ago. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was
Yep.
fun.
Same, same. Not over the top, but it was fine. Then I watched Don't Look Now.
Don't oh fuck yeah.
Yep,
Right before
because
your trip,
you
right?
told me to, and I promised
To
it, so I
Venice.
did. Yep,
All
and
right.
it definitely enhanced my like Halloween Venice vacation experience
Experience. Heck
for
yeah.
sure. It's just
Amazing movie.
yep, it's so good. I watched Possession for the first time, which was incredible. I understand why some people we talked about as well, why some people think it's too much and very gross, but I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yep. One of the most effectively directed movies that I've seen. I have legitimately never felt sick to my stomach watching a movie than I did with Possession. Like actually I wanted to vomit.
Mhm. It was so great. I loved it. Then I watched Nosferatu in Venice because
I
I
remember
found
you
out,
posting about it, but I'm not familiar with this movie at all.
yeah, it's just a film about what if Nosferatu came to Venice. It's not good. It went
I
to
figured.
like four different directors because I think the main actor, which is he's a German, he also played Nosferatu in Werner Herzog's
Is it
Nosferatu.
Klaus is with Klaus Kinski?
Kosinski. Yep. He was apparently very difficult and he fought with multiple directors. He
That sounds
also
right.
sexually assaulted an actress on
Yep.
screen. You can
That
like
sounds right.
you can
Oh,
watch
in the
it
movie?
in the movie. You see the scene where he did it, and
Wow.
yeah, I don't recommend this film at all.
I Klaus Kinski is an absolute menace to society. And
He is.
I mean, he's a great actor, but he is a fucking menace.
Yep.
He sexually assaulted his own fucking kids. That dude was a piece of shit.
Dude, fuck him. Fuck
Yeah,
him.
he's a piece of shit.
And then one more that I want to mention. I watched An American Werewolf in London as a special full moon screening in a theater, which
Woo!
was, dude, such a great experience with a lot of.
Was that in Switzerland?
It was in Switzerland. We have this
Nice.
theater that is like this old city theater. They even played Nosferatu, and they had someone on the piano, but I
Oh,
couldn't
no
make it. I had to
way.
work. I had to work
No
that day.
way.
But
Oh, with like
hopefully,
the live score on like the like, oh, that's
there's a guy
awesome.
and he's playing, and even like when I went to watch this film, the piano was still there. Like it's this old piano, like from back in the day. I'm pretty sure.
Is it like an organ type?
It's like a smaller one, like a normal
Okay.
piano, not like a big one.
Yeah.
And someone's just like sitting there and playing. But I couldn't make it, which I regret. But next year, hopefully, because I heard they do it every year.
Like a yearly thing. Oh, you gotta go, bro. That's your movie. You gotta go.
God, man, that would be so great because they always do like in like October they have all these spooky films and these
Yeah.
classics, and it was great seeing it with a lot of like film fans because we
Yeah.
didn't have anyone just like casually walk in. Like you could tell these people watch a lot of films, and great film, very funny, very creative, and watching it hearing a full moon in a theater with so many great people was definitely a great experience.
That was
And
your
I
first time watching it, right?
first time, never seen it. It was great. You've seen it, right?
Love it. I love that
Yeah,
movie.
it's so great.
Like that Nazi nightmare dream scene is so fucking. That's what I think of when I think of Germany. I think of Germany and I just picture that scene.
That's Frankfurt.
Yeah, that's Frankfurt. Just a typical Wednesday in Frankfurt.
Yeah, it's a casual day. But yeah, those were my highlights of Spooktober.
Oh, dude, that is the best one. You close it out with the best one. That's such a cool experience
Mhm,
to have, especially to see a lot like that movie for the first time, or to see any older movie for the first time in a theater is
mhm.
such a cool experience.
It
So
is.
I'm really glad you got to experience that on a big screen, and I'm assuming it was probably a pretty packed house. No,
It was, yeah, it was not completely packed, but more
full
people than
enough.
we expected. And it was cool just going outside and just seeing like the big ass full moon just
Yeah,
made it better. But
heck
yeah,
yeah, man, that's
great.
awesome. It sounds like you had a very productive Spooktober, um, as we all should aspire to have.
But I'm
Um,
excited to hear about your October experience.
yeah, so my Spooktober, so I'm gonna kick it off with I said I didn't get around to Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost, but I did get around to Trick or Treat Scooby Doo. It was the only Scooby Doo movie I got around to this October. It came out like last year. Are you familiar with this or seen it?
I know it because you told me that was actually pretty great
Okay. Well, I thought we had talked about it maybe like on like Instagram or something,
because of my edit.
but
Recommend I included a scene
that's
of
what it
it
was.
in my edit.
That's what it was.
Yep.
This movie is it really surprised me a lot with it was very inventive, it was really modern in its like approach. It was completely like unique and new and creative, and I had such a good time, and I think it was one of the better Scooby-Doo animated movies that they've made in general. I would put it in the top 5. I thought it was very, very good. And a lot of these new ones, they try too hard. Like I didn't see it, but that Velma show they made with like
Mhm.
Mindy Kaling, I think a lot of people were turned off on that from what I heard and read. I think people said they were trying too hard to be like, oh, we're super progressive. And like, it was just too much of that where this just does it very seamlessly. Like, it's
Mhm.
just naturally just a part of Scooby Doo in a more modern age. Whereas opposed to, again, I didn't see it, but from what I gathered, the Velma's like, no, we're trying so hard. Look at Velma's a minority and she's also this. And then there, it's just like, okay, you like, we get it. We get it. But this was just very effortlessly just modern and new and like I don't know. It was I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was really cool.
I'll put
Um,
it on my next, like on my list for next year for Spooktober because it looked great. The animation as well, very
yeah,
very cool. And
the animation was really cool. Um, I highly recommend. I watched I guess besides the first one because I'd seen the first one, but I watched all the Final Destination sequels.
I saw
Um, yeah, which are a ton of fun. Final Destination 5, low key, kind of being like a sleeper like hit. There was a ton of really funny shit in it, and honestly, I can't lie, very entertaining.
what's your
Um,
favorite I've seen in all the Final Destination films? Do you have one?
oh shit. Okay. There is
Because there's
one
a
in
lot of
Final
great ones.
there's one in Final Destination 5 where this dude, he's one of those like dweeby workers who was in the Wolf of Wall Street. Like he's one of the guys that Jordan Belfort hires, and he he's like getting a massage in Final Destination 5, and he's like super like rapey like with these girls. He's like, "Oh yeah, oh you're going to rub me down? Like, how much for happy?" He's just one of those fucking assholes.
Deshaun Watson.
So was it? Yeah, exactly. A Deshaun Watson. So the masseuse's like mom, like an older like Asian woman, comes in and she starts doing the acupuncture. And there's a death scene involving him and the acupuncture needles, maybe him falling off a table. I don't want to get into it or spoil or anything, but that's a good one. And then in Final Destination, and I blank because I have like the worst short term memory. It's either
Mhm.
Final Destination 2 or 3. There is a there is a tanning bed death involving these two girls who are getting tans in the tanning bed, and there's a great cut shot or like a match cut where there's like an overhead shot of these two tanning beds, and then immediately it cuts to two caskets in the same position, like at the funeral, and it is so funny,
I know
dude.
that one.
I think it's it's either 2 or 3. It's one of those. I think it's Final Destination 2.
Mhm.
Um, but that I do like those ones a lot. And honestly, I actually said Final Destination 5 was a sleeper. I actually really liked Final Destination 3 a lot, like out of those, because it has Mary Elizabeth Winstead
Mhm.
from Scott Pilgrim, from Death Proof, from I guess Birds of Prey or the one
Yep.
of the that movie. I guess
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know who she is. She is the best actor that has been in any of those movies. Like clearly,
Mhm.
she's like carrying the whole thing. So she makes that third one really good. And there is a scene involving like a drive-through and like a runaway truck in
That's
Final
actually
Destination.
my
Have you
favorite.
seen all the sequels? Yeah.
I haven't seen all of them, but a couple, but they all blend together. I can't keep them
Yeah.
apart. But I know
Yeah.
exactly that scene because that's probably my favorite. With like the trees, the tree trunks.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
great scene.
Um, I think that one had a ton of awesome deaths, and I liked like the whole theme park theme of that too.
Yeah, the roller
Um,
coaster.
yeah, but
Yep.
I checked out all of those. I rewatched that movie You're Next, which I hadn't seen in a long time. Do you remember this movie from like 2011?
You're next. I don't think so.
It's it's honestly kind of like a weird slasher version of Festin, a little bit. Um, aka the celebration for anybody who is listening. But it's like this family like gets together for like a wedding anniversary or something,
Mhm.
and there are a group of like three killers all wearing like these masks. Like one's wearing a mask of like a bunny, one has like a like a bear mask or something, and they start terrorizing this family. Um, and it's most notable. There's a very funny, not even a cameo, but like a supporting character that the director Ty West plays. He doesn't direct this movie, but obviously for fans of X and Pearl and Maxine coming out, he plays this very funny, like pretentious, like documentary filmmaker who has a great death scene in it. But this movie, I'm surprised you're unfamiliar with it. It was very popular when it came out.
Mhm.
Um, and like if you're interested, like I think if you were into like The Strangers, it's kind of like that sort of vibe. Even like Ready or Not, kind of that kind of vibe.
Yep.
Because Your Next is actually also very funny. There's a lot of very funny stuff in it.
I gotta
Um,
check it out. I've
but I
never
did
seen it. Never seen the poster, never heard of it.
really.
Maybe I
I
have.
think I don't know, and maybe it was just a really popular thing here in the States, and maybe it didn't transfer very well overseas because it was like a lower budgeted thing. But maybe I just assumed. But really good movie, and it's been a while since I've seen it. But what I really want to get into, what I really want to talk about and I'll give a little backstory, and then I'll end my Spooktober here. During you seen Death Proof, like the Grindhouse thing that Tarantino did?
Not yet.
Okay. So if you watch like the proper Grindhouse thing as the double feature with him and the Robert Rodriguez movie, like the Planet Terror, I think is what it's called.
Mhm.
In between, there are a handful of different fake trailers that other directors. Are you familiar with this?
I think so.
There's a bunch of fake trailers. Edgar Wright did a trailer called Don't that's very funny, and it's like a spoof of like the Hammer horror films of like the 50s. Um, Rob Zombie does one called like Nazi SS Nazi women from space, like all very exploitation-y things.
Mhm.
And then there was one called Thanksgiving that I always really thought was so cool and so funny. And my cousin and I always had this fixation with Thanksgiving, this little trailer. And Eli Roth directed it, who played Bear Jew and I think you already know where I'm going with this, who
Yep.
played Bear Jew in Inglourious Bastards. And we always, my cousin and I, Megan, we always loved this trailer for Thanksgiving. We're like, why the fuck haven't they made this into a feature ever? Machete is another one that was a trailer, and they made that into a feature. Hobo with a Shotgun, trailer from that, they made it into a feature. And we kept thinking, like, how have they never made Thanksgiving to a feature? Fast forward, like, at this point now, 16 years. We didn't watch it 16 years ago, but fast forward now 16 years, and Thanksgiving is coming out in just about a week or 2 weeks.
Damn.
Have you seen the trailers for this at all?
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
okay. So you don't know where I was going with it. But Eli
Nope.
Roth is making Thanksgiving, and it is finally coming out in like 2 weeks in the
Oh,
States, at least.
yeah, I've seen posters for it in my cinema.
Yes. And it is finally the creation of that super. And I'm going to send you the trailer for Thanksgiving to check out, though, because you're going to watch it and you're going to totally get why it's like so up my alley. Like just exactly what I want
It's the
from
vibe, the
something like that.
setting. Yeah.
Yes. I
Yeah,
think,
I've seen posters
unfortunately,
and clips.
I think the only unfortunate thing is that in the grindhouse thing, it's all like very like grimy 16 millimeter film, super like gritty. And I think Thanksgiving, like it's very polished, clearly shot very digitally polished, modern. So that's the only
Mhm,
thing where I'm like, I wish you could have just kept like the whole like grimy lo-fi, like 70s, 80s slasher kind of vibe.
mhm.
But either way, I'll take what I can get. But the reason for me saying that is I was sitting there and I thought, okay, I'm talking to my cousin Megan. I'm like, yo, I'm going to be in Atlanta for Thanksgiving. We are going to go see this the day before Thanksgiving together. Let's make a plan of it. Let's do it. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have never seen an Eli Roth movie ever. None of the movies he's directed I have ever seen. So I buckled down and I watched all of them except for two. Two of them I've not gotten around to yet. But I sat down and the movie Cabin Fever
Mhm.
is one of the wildest movies that I have seen in a while. And I think everyone has constantly shit on this movie. Everyone has constantly shit on Eli Roth's career. And I understand where they are coming from. I don't know that he has ever made something that is objectively good. Like objectively, like, whoa, this is like a masterwork. I don't think he's done that.
Mhm.
But he has constantly made very fun, entertaining films straight up. I watched Cabin Fever. I watched the first Hostel. I watched The Green Inferno. I watched Knock Knock. I watched his remake of Death Wish. And all I have left is Hostel 2, but I don't really care to go back to that world because it was so gross. But Cabin Fever in particular, I want to talk about. It feels like watching. Imagine if David Lynch, like if he made Twin Peaks, but instead he was like a frat dude who was in college, who smoked a lot of weed and made a slasher movie instead of Twin Peaks. Like that's what that movie
Damn.
is. It is
Damn.
so weirdly surreal, and it's very on its face very Lynchian. He got Angelo Badalamenti, David Lynch's composer, to do like three songs for it as well. Like he's not the actual like composer, but grabbed three songs that he did to insert, and it feels like Twin Peaks. And there is shit
Damn.
that is unexplainable what's happening. Um, but I had such a good time with this movie that I can't just like talk about it enough with people where I'm like, go watch Cabin Fever. Like, please go watch Cabin Fever. It is so good. It's so fun. Um, and I've had a really, really good time watching um, all of Eli Roth's movies so far. I can't lie, and I'm very much looking forward to Thanksgiving coming out in just a couple weeks.
Only seen Knock Knock, which I disliked a lot.
I dislike
But
it tremendously. Yeah.
yeah, but Cabin Fever, the way you just explained it, sounds wild. And my Spooktober 2024 list is already growing because that's gonna be one
Yeah.
I'll
Because
definitely check.
I think the thing with it is that a lot of people look at it so black and white, like, oh, this writing and like the acting, it's like so juvenile, and like all the writing, like literally everything they say, and don't cancel me, I'm just quoting. They're like, oh, don't be so gay. Oh, shut up, you retard. So it's like
Mhm.
people are like, oh, this is such bad writing, but it's like obviously it's bad writing, but obviously I think that's the point. These characters are imbeciles. These are the
Mhm.
people who would go around and be like, ugh, shut up, you gay retard. Like those are who these characters are. So like to me, I'm like set that aside. Like clearly he's trying to make a very campy. I'm telling you, it feels like a weird dream when you watch it. Like I'm like, it doesn't. I don't know. You're either in it or you're not. But Cabin Fever is very cool, and I think it's the best thing he's done. Knock Knock is a steaming hot pile of fucking shit.
Yeah.
Um, it's a remake of a movie called Death Game from the 70s, which also is a steaming hot pile of dog shit. I hate it. So I own it on Blu-ray. I bought it.
Mhm.
I spent like $30 on it because it
Damn.
was so hyped up. I'm like, oh my God, it's a rare limited time thing. They brought it up. And same thing how Knock Knock, you know how it's just so obnoxious? It's so annoying. And
Yep.
there's no rhyme or reason. It's just them being annoying for the sake. It's the same thing as Death Game. It's awful. Both
Mhm.
movies fucking suck. Um, and then one other movie that I'll talk about, I know I've talked for a minute, but one I'll talk about very briefly that I saw at the end of Spooktober, I think I watched it on Halloween, was the Chucky remake, the Child's Play remake from like 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Did you see it at all?
I haven't. I haven't.
I I honestly, it came out in 2019. I highly recommend it. I had a
Damn.
great time watching it. I really liked it a lot.
Okay. I actually
It's
want to do a Chucky marathon next year because I've never seen a full
oh really?
Chucky film
Okay.
ever.
I've only seen I think I've actually have only seen the first Child's Play. And then
Mhm.
I've seen The Bride of Chucky as well.
Okay.
Um, and then plus this Child's Play. It's really cool. If you saw the movie Megan that came out like last year or whenever, Megan is essentially ripping off this. It is a
Mhm.
straight up rip off. And this I personally thought was way better than Megan. Um,
Okay.
I thought Megan was entertaining. I thought the child actor, I thought that girl was terrible. Like I thought she was so annoying. But the child actor in Child's Play is really good. Like he's an actual great actor, and he
Mhm.
sells it. And he's not just like an annoying little okay, shut up, you little like you know shit or whatever, you know. But Child's Play, I highly recommend it. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really funny, and I thought it was the best way that they could have reintroduced this for a new generation of kids.
I'll definitely check it out next year. How
Yeah,
many
I had a
Chucky
great
films?
time.
There are a bunch of them, right?
I want to say, hold on, I have it up. I have so there's Child's Play, there's Child's Play 2, there is The Bride of Chucky, The Seed of Chucky, The Cult of Chucky, and The Curse of Chucky. Oh, and Child's Play 3. So one, two, three, four, five, six. There's seven in the original
And then this is
series.
the eighth one, the remake.
Yeah, although I would say this is more just like a reboot, like kind of unattached sort of thing from like
Mhm.
the original sequence. But I think it really goes like I think it's like Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3. Watch that as one thing. And then
Yep.
it's like I think they did a reboot like later in the 90s, 2000s for Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky. And then now Child's Play was another separate
Mhm.
third edition reboot.
Okay. I might skip the spin-offs, honestly. Maybe Bride of Chucky because that actually sounds
You
kind of
got to
fun.
see it. You got to see Bride of Chucky. You have to.
Yeah.
And Seed of Chucky. I actually think I've seen Seed of Chucky too, where they have a baby. Him and the Chucky's wife, I forget what her name is. They have a baby.
Don't tell me more. I'm gonna watch all of
Yeah,
them. So
go.
many.
You got to watch them. They're
I need
fucking
to see
awesome.
baby Chucky just running around with a knife.
Yes. Yeah.
I need that.
But that was pretty much my Spooktober, man. We this was a long one. The folks deserved a long one from us.
Yeah.
Uh, and we talked all things. I mean, we talked The Killer more than we even talked about this week's movie. We talked Spooktober. I think we even talked NFL football more than we talked about Song to Song.
I feel bad for that one person, like you mentioned, that is like, I just watched Song to Song. I need to know more about it. I wanna
Yeah.
hear, like, listen to people talk about it. Oh, look, a whole podcast that is almost 2 hours long that I want to listen to. And it's just like 2 minutes, and then we're just like, oh, it's boring. Let's just talk about
It's
this instead. I'm
yeah.
sorry. if you like listen through all of this, we're sorry, but I hope it was at least entertaining. Maybe we gained a new fan, but yeah, sorry.
And yeah, my apologies, our apologies. But next week we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program.
Oh yeah,
Um, we
we have a
got
lot
two
to talk
movies from 2016, but I believe that we decided before the pod we are going to be doing La La Land next, and then followed by that we will do The Nice Guys. May or may not have a special guest on that
about.
episode. Wait, we'll have
Yep.
to wait another couple weeks for that one. But next up we'll do La La Land, and yeah, Dino, any last thoughts or anything before we close out for the day? I don't think we got to do a scale of 1 to 10, literally me, for this one this week. I think we're good on that.
We can do one for the killer because he listens to the Smiths, so he's literally me.
Okay, let's do that. That no, okay, we didn't even talk about that. That dude is going to be a new literally me character
100%.
for sure.
Yep. He just
I
like
loved
entered the literally me pantheon.
the mental. I saw our one homie. I don't know his real name, but Maverick of Cinema. That dude was
Mhm.
already
Sid
posting some prime
Sid is
funny
killing it,
memeage.
man. He's
That dude
absolutely
is funny. What's his real name? I don't even know what his real
Sid.
name is.
Siddharth.
Oh, Sid?
Yeah, Siddharth, I think it's
Okay, Siddharth.
pronounced.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
short Sid, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that man is a funny ass motherfucker.
Dude,
And he
so
was going
fun.
crazy. I saw this morning one of the killer memes that he posted.
The
So
fact that he cooked it up in like less than a day, impressive.
I know, he's killing it. No pun
Yep.
intended. Um, but yeah, man, the killer loved that soundtrack. Loved all the Smiths.
Yep.
Shit in there. Very literally me. He might be an 8 out of 10. Literally me.
Yep. Someone needs to do a mashup of him and the guy from 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, just listening to the Smiths.
Yep. This like
Yeah.
in the elevator, just him like with a gun.
Yeah. Just put a bucket hat on Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Just edit a bucket hat
Yeah.
on him.
Someone
um,
that's I don't know how that's not a meme already, honestly.
it will be. Give it another 12 to 24 hours. We'll have it.
Yep.
I assure you.
That's an
Um,
easy Photoshop meme.
for sure. But
Yep.
as always, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Uh, we will come at you next week with La La Land. Back to our regular scheduled program of talking Gosling films. And yeah, Dino, unless you have any final words, I'll let you go and say goodbye to the folks here.
We'll do this more regularly now.
Yes.
Expect more regular
Yes.
episodes. And speaking of song to song, we need more Young Gosling music. I wanted to mention that. So, dude,
Oh,
one album
okay.
isn't enough. If you don't know, this guy makes some banger music, so we need more.
I will. I guess. Thank you for the plug. I
Mhm.
haven't made anything in a long time. But speaking of Gosling, if you type in Young Gosling into a Spotify or any of that, there are three little instrumental EPs you can go bump.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. So
I'm
thanks. Maybe I'll
pressuring
go make
them.
some more.
I'm pressuring them to like literally just text you to death to do more music. So if you're listening to this, head over to his Instagram and just spam him to do more music. We need it.
Please, I need more things to add on to my plate. Um, but yeah, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye bye.